Hi there, I'm Stephanie Wells. I'm teaching a class in Berkeley Ollie's spring semester of 2023 called How to Be a Woman, Enacting Femininity in Literature. It's the second part of a class I'm currently teaching, but you don't need to be enrolled in the current class. To understand these, in both classes, we'll be looking at the ways in which society has tried to define what it means to be a woman, what femininity is, and how women writers have responded to that over time. This course is picking up where the current course, which goes through from the 17th to the 19th centuries, the current course does, and this course will pick up at the turn of the century and mostly focus on the 20th century, maybe a tiny bit into the 21st even. And we will be looking at the ways in which women writers respond to and represent what it is to live as a woman in a world that's always dictating what that's supposed to look like for them. So one difference between the two courses is that the 20th century course in the spring is going to be a little bit heavier on poetry and fiction, a little bit lighter on political polemics than the previous course was, but there still will be plenty of that as well. For those of you who are enjoying that, there still will be plenty of women writing political and activist essays about how best to redefine what it means to be a woman. But there's such a wider range of women writers in the 20th century than there were in previous centuries. And so we'll look through Harlem Renaissance poets and a lot of immigrant poets, California poets, confessional poets, modernist short story writers. The great Virginia Woolf, of course, will probably open and close our syllabus. But throughout the course of the century, and the course will be organized partially chronologically and partially thematically, we'll be looking at some recurring themes that keep coming up, such as maternity and the connection between creative artistry and the physical creative act of bearing a child, what that connection is. Women throughout the centuries have been writing about that. We'll look at the way that marriage for women is represented. The blessing and curse of being a woman writer, which is much less of a curse than it used to be in previous centuries, but it's still a complicated trajectory for a lot of women writers finding their voice. Gender identity, the idea of a matriarchal literary tradition, which is beginning to really take shape by the time the 20th century is in full swing. That's taking shape for the first time, and women are writing about that. Women are acknowledging that and celebrating that. And so the syllabus that I've compiled is overambitious and filled to brim and bursting with beautiful, interesting, thoughtful pieces of writing that I hope we'll be able to explore together. The textbook I've chosen is the Norton Anthology of Literature by Women by Sandra Gilbert and Susan Huvar, the third edition, the second volume of the third edition. So all the works will be found in there, and we'll just scratch the surface of that beautiful fat collection full of interesting things. But in doing so, I think we'll be able to touch on many of the themes that have tickled the minds of and plagued the consciousnesses of women writers throughout the whole 20th century. So I hope you'll join me in reading them.